Hey guys, this week's hand we have 17 left at EPT Berlin in 2011. If you have an idea for hand of the week, send it to us at our Twitter handle. But PokerStars has said this is one of the greatest hands of all time.
What you guys are about to see is seemingly impossible, but check it with your eyes. It's reality.
So Jeffrey Hakim is going to open with a raise from the cutoff to 65,000 with Queen Jack suited. Wilinofsky's got aces again?
Well, he's on the button.
Call.
No one believes button 3 bets, but he's going to slow play and just call.
And Julius has mucked the small blind. Ace-9 suited for Joep van der Bijgaart in the big blind. Any chance he squeezes?
With the suited ace and the odds he's getting in the pot, he's probably going to call, but it wouldn't be a bad spot with Ben just calling on the button.
How much is this? 65. I call.
Maybe alarm bells are ringing that Ben didn't 3-bet. Didn't know he had a call button.
James Hartigan might have a good point here about Ben Wilinofsky not 3-betting. Wilinofsky is known as an extremely aggressive player, especially on the button, and he 3-bets almost his entire range most of the time. So this is a bit of a strange flat.
Yeah, and especially because Wilinofsky has 200 blinds and is the massive chip leader. Hakim only has 25 blinds. Wilinofsky can't call with any speculative hands here. So he's kind of given away a little bit by not 3-betting here. He's going to 3-bet pretty much everything, like Grant's saying, like all of his playing range. So it's weird not to 3-bet.
It's also kind of hard to put him even on something like ace king or ace queen because those hands are more vulnerable post flop. He just hoped to get it in with a 25 big blind stack in this spot based on his image.
Yeah, it would seem shocking for him not to 3-bet all the good hands and all the bad hands. Aces is the one hand, maybe kings I guess too, that he might decide to just flat with as a trap. But it's just not something, alarm bells should be going off.
Right, and that is likely why Van den Bijgaart decides not to squeeze after he finds out how much it is, or whatever it is he says when he asks how much it is to call.
It is how much?
Yeah, I don't know. I like that guy. Anyway,
yeah.
He's a great guy. He seems like a nice fella.
Yeah, I mean, it may also just because he's getting this extraordinary price to call with the ace-9 of hearts, and he doesn't want to get his stack chopped in half. He's got about 55 blinds. Hakim has got 25 blinds. So if he squeezes and is wrong, he's off. I mean, he puts himself in sort of a weird spot with a pretty good hand. I think it's better just to call anyway.
Yeah, good flat by Van den Bijgaart.
Maybe he just wants to see a flop.
And what a flop. Ace-9 deuce with 2 clubs. Top set for Wilinofsky. Top 2 pair for Van den Bijgaart. And the flush draw for Jeffrey Hakim. He had the pre-flop betting lead. It's been checked to him.
Disastrous flop for everybody but Wilinofsky. A Hollywood poker writer couldn't have scripted this cooler any better.
93,000.
Considering he has the board completely crushed, I like a flat call. It conceals the strength of his hand, and it allows for opponents to make mistakes.
193.
He is going to raise. He sticks 100,000 on top. So what does Joep do with top 2?
Pristine opportunity to re-raise. He is out of position. He can't just flat call. He has to raise the price of admission. Show's about to get expensive.
So he 3-bets to 530,000. He's stuck in about a third of his stack.
Now Hakim can't call it all off with the flush draw.
How much do you have behind?
When Wilinofsky gets a count, he may well think that Joep van den Bijgaart has committed himself to this pot.
And for that reason, he may stick him all in to risk no clubs.
Come on.
He has shoved on Van den Bijgaart.
He looks disgusted. I'd be happy.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Having committed a third of his chips, he's not meant to pass a hand this strong.
He has top 2 on a board where it's very difficult for any hand to have him beat. I would already be eliminated from the tournament by now.
I'm in the same boat. My chips would have gone across the line, the cards would have gone on their back, and I would have said NHGG.
Such a big hand, but I can't beat anything.
How do you put Wilinofsky on a set here?
Joep is clearly thinking Ben does not have a bluff in his range.
Can have aces. Aces. Can have aces.
Does have aces.
That's so sick.
He put aces in his range.
Maybe it's because Wilinofsky just called pre-flop that makes him think he does have aces.
The first time ever that I don't really know what to do and I don't have a good plan.
I do that to people.
I guess. I hate myself. You would show if I fold? Talking all the time, and now you're saying, don't say anything.
Interesting read.
I'm just not going to answer that question.
No, I know.
Makes you feel better, though. I don't hate you.
I'm sorry?
I don't hate you. You just said you hated yourself. I kind of like it.
I don't like myself.
You has picked up on the fact that Ben has gone quiet. He's the chattiest man in poker, and suddenly he's gone as still as a statue. He's laid it down. That is an amazing fold.
Vanden Bijgaart should feel extremely proud. That is a spot where the majority of poker players would have gone broke.
As the commentators allude to multiple times, there is certainly a verbal tell situation going on here, but before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about hand ranging and how Vanden Bijgaart is able to confirm his hand ranging tell with the verbal tell. So Vanden Bijgaart folds this insane hand. Okay, that's just insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to come up with all these reasons. We're going to examine this, but it's crazy unto itself, right? We're going to put the pieces together, but on the face of it, it's just an amazing play.
Right. So let's talk about why he does it. So Wilinofsky, as we said after the flop, or pre-flop, excuse me, his range is kind of weird because he's usually 3-betting most of his hands in this spot. So it already looks a little fishy, and the commentators, William Reynolds and James Hardikin, have alluded to it plenty of times.
Yep.
Beyond that, what is Wilinofsky going to play like this post-flop that Vanden Bijgaart can beat, having flatted pre-flop?
Yeah, this is the thing that when Vanden Bijgaart puts in, what is it, 560K? Something like that?
530.
530, though, and puts in more than a third of his stack. He's only got 911 left. Wilinofsky doesn't have a bluff when he moves him in. He's not doing it with a flush draw because he knows Vanden Bijgaart, who, by the way, is known as being super tight, is going to call. He's committed himself.
Well, you would think he was going to call.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Vanden Bijgaart is getting an insane price, by the way. He has 911K behind, and the pot is 2.3 million.
Right. So if you're Vanden Bijgaart, you're sitting there and you're thinking, how can this guy be moving me in here? Like, what in the world can he have that he's moving me in when he knows I'm calling?
To be clear, on the surface, this is a game theory disaster by Vanden Bijgaart to 3-bet on the flop to such a large size with near the top of his range and then fold. That's a game theory disaster.
I'd go so far as to call it a game theory abortion. I mean, it's brutal.
It's pretty bad. But when you really, really break it down, Wilinofsky only really has sets here.
Yeah,
which is crazy because with card removal, that is not very many combos.
It's so hard because Wilinofsky's just almost certainly not going to flat deuces pre-flop, and he's not going to flat nines pre-flop. So the only set he really has almost ever is aces. It's crazy.
Which, if you listen closely, you can hear Vanden Bijgaart whispering to himself about how he is putting Wilinofsky on aces, which is pretty insane.
Yeah. We don't think Wilinofsky can do this with 9-10 of clubs because he's just not going to move in. He might call the raise, but he's never going to move in knowing he's getting called with 9-10 of clubs.
Also, Wilinofsky's playing style would not generally beat a flat 9-10 of clubs pre-flop. He tends to 3-bet hands like that, especially on the button.
Yeah, especially on the button and with against a 25 big blind stack when he himself has like 190 blinds. He's just always 3-betting all of his speculative hands here.
Right. So Vanden Bijgaart puts all these pieces together, but he needs a final piece, I think. And
yeah.
I've said this on the podcast. Physical and verbal tells are good to confirm reads. They're not good to make a read out of. So Vanden Bijgaart's going to use a verbal tell to confirm his current read based on the gameplay.
Yeah. And
it's kind of crazy how bad of a job Wilinofsky does with this because he's a guy who talks in hands all the time.
Yeah, I don't understand. He's plays tournaments all the time. He's successful. How does he screw this up so bad? He really messes this one up.
Right. So the real problem here is, and the video doesn't really show it, but Vanden Bijgaart's been tanking for a very long time.
Yeah.
You can tell because there's a guy in between Wilinofsky and Vanden Bijgaart, and then it cuts away, and then there's no more guy. So people have left because it's been so long.
Yeah.
So after all of this time with Vanden Bijgaard talking about how he hates himself, putting Wilinofsky on aces under his breath, he then asked Wilinofsky the classic question, will you show me if I fold?
You will show if I fold?
And Wilinofsky does not answer, which is perfectly legitimate. A lot of people don't answer that question. But then Vanden Bijgaard reads into that, as Wilinofsky being silent, this super talkative guy, he's like, you're talking all the time, and now you're not talking. It's so weird.
And then, of course, Wilinofsky realizes he has to start talking.
Right. So then he does this.
I'm just not going to answer that question.
No, I know.
Makes you feel better, though. I don't hate you.
I'm sorry?
I don't hate you. You just said you hated yourself. I kind of like you.
And that looks just insanely, insanely strong.
If you've been quiet for minutes on end and now you're suddenly saying, Wilinofsky basically says 4 sentences in a row that are all saying the exact same thing. I kind of like you. But he says it 4 different ways because he's just trying to get words out, I think.
Right. So the real point here is Wilinofsky sees that Vanden Bijgaard is leaning towards a fold. He feels like he has to scramble, start talking a lot in order to make Vanden Bijgaard change his decision. He wants the decision to be different.
Yeah.
And that is a tell to Vanden Bijgaard.
Yeah, at this point, Wilinofsky, the only move is to stay quiet. It's just too late to do anything else. You gotta hang in there. You can't do something that is a clear, abrupt shift once Vanden Bijgaard is clearly moving towards making a crazy fold, which is clearly what's going on. And think Vanden Bijgaard's not going to notice that. He's too good a player also.
Vanden Bijgaard did notice it. He put it all together, and damn, that was a good fold.
Damn, that was a fold.
If you guys want to see another fold where somebody's getting a crazy price, although it's not as good of a fold, check out the Dennis Phillips disaster by clicking here.
Also, you can follow us on Twitter, check out our website, and don't forget to subscribe.